Preseason is heating up, hot takes are flying, and that means one thing. It's fantasy football draft season. If you're drafting from the 107 spot or you want to know what your league mates might do there, this is the video for you. After the big four are off the board in Jamar Chase, Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson, and usually Justin Jefferson, things flatten out a little bit. That means you've got options, but there's also tougher decisions. You've got elite running backs with risk or high volume wide receivers with stability, but also wide receivers with risk. Players to consider from the 107. Christian McCaffrey, yes, he's 29. Yes, he's only played more than 11 games once in the last 4 years. But when he's on the field, we know he can be a league winner. This offseason, he's been a full go ever since OTAs, even in drills that most veterans skipped back then. He was doing them. Training camp, he's been healthy. Isaac Guerrero can carve out a change of pace role, but McCaffrey is still one of the few true three-down backs left in the league. He's an elite pass catcher, probably a lock for double-digit touchdowns when healthy. He's carried fantasy managers to championships before. The risk is real, but so is the upside. And the Niners defense looks like it could be really bad this year, which might help the Niners being pass-heavy, hurry-up scripts, which could again lead to McCaffrey seeing a high volume of targets. Puka Nacua. With the Rams moving on from Cooper Kupp, this offense is now going to be built around Puka. Over his first 2 seasons, he's averaged 6.6 receptions per game and been truly incredible in a number of high-level efficiency stats. The only knock on him is just 9 touchdowns in 2 years. The Rams have addressed things by bringing in Devontae Adams, who should pull coverage away and help open up red zone opportunities for Puka. Stafford's health, it was a concern for the majority of this summer, but he's been practicing again. He's on track to start week. That stabilizes Nakua's outlook as a safe wide receiver 1 who could easily end up as a top 2, top 3 wide receiver if he gets double-digit touchdowns. Malik Neighbors. Neighbors was electric as a rookie, 109 catches, breaking Puka's record, finished as wide receiver 6 overall. The knock last year, it was quarterback play, but he produced anyway, which speaks volumes. Now the Giants QB situation is still unsettled, but you've got Russell Wilson and rookie Jackson Dart who are battling for the job. Either of them will be a clear upgrade over Daniel Jones, Tommy DeVito, and the complete disaster of a rotation that we saw in 2024. Neighbors, he really has very little competition for target. Wan'Dale Robinson is the only other notable piece. We can expect another top 6, top 5 finish from him, and don't be surprised if he can push into the elite tier this year. The dream scenario is Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, it's unlikely that Gibbs is going to fall over 107, but if he does, you should take him. You should smash that button and you should start laughing your ass off. There's analysts like Evan Silver and Ben Gretsch who've moved him up to RB1 overall in the last few weeks. And that's because in 2024, Gibbs finished as the RB3 in PPR points per game, 3rd in total RB yardage, 6th in RB targets. He topped 20 fantasy points in 6 games, and 4 of those came with David Montgomery healthy and active. That shows that he can thrive even if this is a split workload, and reports out of camp suggest Gibbs could see an even larger workload this year. The floor is solid RB1, the ceiling is RB1 overall. Players to avoid at 107. Devin Achan, look, the efficiency, it is incredible. 78 catches, 591 receiving yards, 6 receiving touchdowns last year, even handled 70% of Miami's carries inside 5. The issue, touch volume and durability. And now he's already dealing with a calf injury this preseason. For a player built on explosiveness, that's a red flag. Brian Thomas Jr., he was a league winner last year with 10 touchdowns as a rookie, but touchdowns, they're not always sticky year to year. And the Jags, they now have Travis Hunter joining the offense, adding a new coach and scheme under Liam Cohen, and there's real uncertainty about his target share. Thomas belongs in the top 15. But at 107, he'd be overdrafted, especially when you consider that his breakout came with Mac Jones on the field and not Trevor Lawrence. Derrick Henry. Nearly 2,000 total yards and 16 touchdowns last season. That is elite, but Henry turns 31 this year, and he posted just a 4.4% target share, the lowest of any running back drafted inside the first 2 rounds. John Harbaugh has also hinted at spreading work around with Keaton Mitchell and others. Henry's still a monster, but there are safer, younger, higher ceiling options at the 107. Roster construction from the 107. The beauty of this spot is flexibility. Start with a wide receiver with Puka or Neighbors, then scoop strong running backs in round 2 like Josh Jacobs, Bucky Irving, or Chase Brown. Start running back with McCaffrey. Round 2 gives you wide receivers like AJ Brown or Ladd McConkey. Because of that, hero RB builds work perfectly here. 1 stud running back, then hammer wide receiver. Dual running back starts are possible, but it can leave your wide receiver room thin fast. If you want to start with a wide receiver, why don't you check out this video on hero wide receiver, the strategy that not enough people are talking about. So let's jump into a mock draft, and we're going to use the Fantasy Pros Draft Wizard to mock draft. It's insanely customizable. You can sync your leagues to it, automatically copy your settings, and then it'll adjust the rankings for that. You can choose which expert rankings and insights you see, including mine, which are part of the expert consensus rankings of over 100 people from across the industry. Look, I came number 2 overall in the sleeper rankings contest last year, so I feel pretty good about my rankings, and you should be going and checking them out. Check out the link in the description right now to start your own mock drafts. So we're using the 2025 season, half PPR, snake, 7th pick, and then a pretty similar setup to what you see in a lot of home leagues. 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 flex, kicker, defense, and 6 bench spots. So a pretty normal start. Jamar Chase, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Saquon Barkley, and we'll take Malik Neighbors. Really like the potential for him to have a huge season. Second round, we'll take Drake London. His chance of being the wide receiver 1 overall are probably sneaky okay. Like, he's probably the last wide receiver I'd be willing to make that bet on. In round 3, we've got a choice between Jackson Smith and Jigba, T. Higgins, Tyreek Hill, and George Kittle. I'm going to take George Kittle. I like getting one of the elite players, and the volume he could see with the Niners this year, with their defense being terrible, is really worth betting on. In round 4, let's take James Conner and lock in our first running back. Normally in a best ball draft, I'd be willing to push the position a little bit more, but in home leagues, running backs, man, they just absolutely go. Round 5, Tony Pollard. He has been going in round 6, but he's only going to keep rising with Tajay Spears dealing with his high ankle sprain. And then in round 6, let's add another wide receiver, and we'll go with Jameson Williams. Look, I've not been the biggest Jameson Williams fan, but the drumbeat out of Lions camp is so consistent. All the talk is that their new offensive coordinator, who was a speed merchant himself in college, is absolutely enamored with JMO. So at some point, I've got to put my prize aside and be willing to risk it. In round 7, this feels like a wide receiver tier. So Travis Hunter, Jerry Jeudy, Roma Dunze, Stephon Diggs all sitting there. I'm completely fine with Travis Hunter as my wide receiver 4. Like, the guy has so much upside, and I'm trying to win this league. I'm not trying to come 4th. I'm not trying to just make the playoffs. I want to win. In round 8, we'll take J.K. Dobbins as our third running back. James Conner, Tony Pollard, J.K. Dobbins feels like an okay running back room. We'll want to add some rookies and really try and find some juice for this team, but right now that's completely fine. We're now in a tier where it's all quarterbacks and tight ends, so I feel comfortable pushing quarterback a little bit longer. Braylon Allen works really nicely as our 4th running back. The rumors about Breece Hall they don't look positive whatsoever, and Braylon Allen looked good in a limited sample size last year. Jaden Reed works perfectly well for our next pick. Like, the reports say that he could be out of the boot soon. Maybe he's not the player that we hoped he would be a year ago, but I still think that there's plenty to like about Jaden Reed when you're talking about a wide receiver 5 on a Packers offense, which should be more pass heavy this year. Now, at running back, I'm going to take a swing here, and I'm going to go down and get Jacoby Krosky-Merritt, fresh off a big preseason performance against the Bengals. The hype is just going only one way. Brian Robinson's on the trade block. We've got that pretty much confirmed by all sources now. And Jacoby Krosky-Merritt, whether we had priors or worries about him coming out of the draft or not, the team believe in him, and at a certain point, you've got to put that aside and just accept it. And if it doesn't work out, we can drop him. That's fine in redraft. In round 12, we'll take Brock Purdy as our quarterback, stack him up with George Kittle. For all the reasons George Kittle's a good play, so is Brock Purdy. We got 5 running backs, 5 wide receivers, but I prefer a little bit more of a dart throw at running back when possible, so I'm going to take Kyle Monongai. I've been a Roschon Johnson guy for a little while, but reports suggest that he's on the roster bubble, and I would rather pivot now before it's too late. We'll take the Ravens defense, who really came on down the stretch last year, added Malachi Starks, and I think they'll be very good for fantasy this year. And then we will take Evan McPherson, the kicker out of Cincinnati, who's consistently been pretty good. Had a bit of a spell last year where it didn't look great, but the team have faith in him, and I think that he can bounce back this year. B+ from a mock draft wizard, 87 out of 100, projected to score the 4th most points. That's fine. I'm not worried about scoring the most points. I just want to make the playoffs, and along the way, make a load of savvy moves, pick players up off waivers. And by the way, we do waiver videos every single Monday or Tuesday throughout the season, so make sure you're subscribing for that. You can see that J.K. Dobbins was the number 1 running back in our consensus sleeper rankings, Braylon Allen, the number 4. We also got a steal on Brock Purdy, drafting him 3 rounds later than he's ranked. Look, the draft wizard, it did not like the Jacoby Krosky-Merritt pick 7 rounds earlier than he's ranked. But hey, look, you are seeing what I'm seeing. Jacoby Krosky-Merritt is flying up draft boards. The hype is building, and the rankings, they need an update here. So I'm completely fine with it. This draft finished with Malik Neighbors, Drake London, George Kittle, James Conner, Tony Pollard, Jameson Williams, Travis Hunter, J.K. Dobbins, Braylon Allen, Jaden Reed, Jacoby Krosky-Merritt, Brock Purdy, Kyle Monongai. Baltimore Ravens defense, and Evan McPherson. Are you drafting out of 107? Would you do things differently? How do you feel about this? Who you targeting? Who do you want to make sure that you have in the later rounds? If you got questions, make sure you drop them down below. We answer every single question on this channel. Make sure you tune to the channel because we have some massive guests coming up in the next 2 weeks. We will absolutely do everything we can to set you up for a big win in 2025.